is almost dead. It's on life support, and we're giving it last rites. But in the course of this, I, of course, had to do some research, and I did find 3 reasons you know if you have a bad computer. First of all, if it's red, and in the lower corner of the device, it has the words Etch-a-Sketch. Also, if you're checking something in the quick reference manual and it's 120 pages long, you know that's bad too. And finally, if you in order to start it, you have to use some jumper cables and your friend's pickup. Today is National Button Day. It's observed annually on November 16th. It was actually founded in 1938 by the National Button Society, and it is an officially organized hobby. So there are both novice, and believe this or not, there are also advanced button collectors that they celebrate this day. And there are thousands of button collectors in our country. So we will begin our meeting today with a verse of America.
My country 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrims bright, from every mountainside let freedom ring.
And Mildred Edwards will give our invocation today.
So in this day and age, it's pretty difficult for us to really think about all of the things that we are responsible for. I've been spending time thinking about my day-to-day activities and my schedule, and it becomes easier for us to believe from time to time that our success or our happiness is independent of others. Well, I had the fortunate opportunity this week to meet someone that reminded me that my presence, my being, is greatly dependent upon my relationship with others. So, he was stubborn. He was pretty decisive, right? And he didn't communicate very well. But he had a very strong name that really kind of reflected some of these characteristics. He was my soulmate at the Payless shoe drive on Tuesday. His name was Frank. Frank was about 2 feet tall, and Frank and I had some decision making to go through to get him to the shoes that he finally selected. But in the end, he said to me, "I get to play in the snow." And I walked away from that experience thinking, everything that I came in there thinking that I needed to do that was on my to-do list didn't matter. Frank made me believe that my job in this earth was to simply be, to be a benefit and to be a blessing. And so I thank the Topeka Downtown Rotary for that opportunity. Let us give thanks. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you today for one another. We thank you for the opportunity to serve our community. Dear God, as we enter into this Thanksgiving season, we ask that you protect us. We thank you for food, fun, family, friendship, fellowship, freedom, and Frank. We ask a special blessing, dear God, on those who make those things possible. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Mildred. I get to do guest introductions today, and I do want to tell you that in the not too far distant future, we're going to try a little different way of doing guest introductions. We'll go through the drill on that later, but I wanted to forewarn you about it. I think it'll really be an improvement. We have 4 guests today, and our first, 5. Kathleen Marker has a guest, and we ask that our guests and Rotarians stand together, and after the introduction, the Rotarian will sit down and the guest will remain standing until we've met all of our new guests.
My guest is Allison Marker. She's the Resource Development Director at the YWCA. She also happens to be related. and she is a potential member.
Cool. And Jim Cole.
I'm happy to introduce Lindsay Anderson. Most of you know her. She is the Director of Mediation that, again, has Beacon Center for Peace and Justice at Providence County.
We need some batteries for this, if anybody wants. This is not working, so I'm just going to yell. Donna Ross has a guest.
My guest is my mother, Lyudmila Zinicheva. She's here from Ukraine visiting.
And Lon Lewis has a guest.
My guest today is a prospective new member also, Oscar Trui, a retired counselor, and a long-time friend of myself and my Nancy and I and my son.
And George Pearson has a guest.
My guest is Roger Fincher. I got him here under false pretenses today. He thought we were going to Baby Dolls for lunch. I had to lie because the last three people I've tried to get more involved. They don't know what a good group we have, but hopefully he'll come back again. He's Beacon's top trial lawyer, and glad he could come.
Thank you. Let's welcome all of our guests. This month's featured charity is the Islamic Center of Topeka, and this is to help support their third annual turkey giveaway, which helps feed over 280 families. And that turkey giveaway will be done this Saturday, so please give generously. Oh, it's a miracle. We have a lot of announcements today, and they're really important. Our first one is that today is the day that we will vote for our club officers and directors for next year. So we'll be passing out ballots very shortly. First of all, I would open the nominations from the floor for any of the positions, including board of directors. And I hear none, so our ballot will stand as it is. So if you will please accept a ballot as they come around and Stan or Linda, are you going to pass those out shortly?
I think they're out.
Okay. So, they're green. Okay.
Short about let me know.
And someone will then pick those up. We will have a count, and we have a couple of folks who are going to count those for us, and we'll get the result at the end of the meeting. Give you about a few seconds to do that. And is Val Vandersloot here today? I haven't seen her yet. Oh, there, okay. So while you're finishing up your ballots, we'll have Val come up. She has an announcement.
No, you're fine.
Okay, cool. Hi, everybody. So I know that I have talked a little bit before about our Rotary YouTube channel, and I would let you know when it was up and running and going strong, and it is indeed up and running. And thank goodness for Dave Heineman here. I know you've seen the camera here for many of our meetings, but they are now all being videotaped. They're available on our Topeka Downtown Rotary YouTube channel. It's exactly that's exactly what you want to search for on your YouTube page to gain access to our channel. You can subscribe to it, so that way anytime we upload a new video, it will come into your YouTube feed. And I will also send out a notification email to every member of the club with a link to that YouTube page. So thank you very much, Dave, for working on this.
Thank you, Val. We have, at the very first talk that I gave back in July, one of my dreams for this year was to have more volunteer opportunities, and my dream is absolutely coming true. We have a lot of things to talk about today, And the first one is that this afternoon we have the we have the Covered in Coats event. I know 15 people are signed up for that. I cannot go after all, so there's still one spot available. It's at 2 o'clock at the Noto Arts Center. If you aren't signed up, but if you're interested, please feel free to come by. It's going to be an amazing event. Another thing that I need to talk to you about, I think Mark mentioned this last week in my absence, but there's lots of activity going on with the Highland Park Interact Club, and one of those is the Christmas project. We as a club will need to do some shopping to help make that happen, and that shopping event is going to be Tuesday, November 28th, so it's just under 2 weeks from now. It will be from 7 o'clock to 8:30 at the Wanamaker Walmart store. We will need about 10 volunteers, so you'll be receiving an email sign up for that. And please, if you have a friend that you'd like to come with you to any of the volunteer opportunities, that would be fantastic. So please do watch for that and sign up if you can. Maybe there'll be a beer involved afterwards. Another announcement is that we have our 5th Thursday Club Social coming up 2 weeks from today, November 30th, from 5:30 to 7 at the Norseman Brewing Company in the Noto Arts District. And while you're drinking your beer and socializing, we might have an opportunity to help tie some fleece blankets for these Highland Park Interact kids doing the project for the students. So if you do that, you have to promise not to spill too much beer on them. We will need to have a head count, so you'll be getting a sign-up sheet for that in the mail. We have some Soulmates information, and Mark DeGroff, I don't know where you're sitting, but if you'll come forward, and Ron, and Robert. Oh, I guess Ron's going to run this part. So Ron and Robert, come on up here. These are the two folks who have been working so hard with the Covered in Coats and Soulmates, and we're very proud of what's happening.
Thank you, President Grace. Good afternoon, everyone. I have to tell you, we've had a very busy early winter with Covered in Coats and Soulmates. This past week, we had a Soulmates on Tuesday and served 25 children from the USD 501 school district. We have already distributed approximately 25 coats, and we have over 50 to do this afternoon. And those who have volunteered, could you please stand up, who have volunteered for Soulmates or Covered in Coats either today or in the past. Wonderful. Thank you very much. So all in all, we have about 126 coats that will be given out between, that have already been given out or will be given out by November 27th, which will be at the Pine Ridge Prep School. And that is a situation where instead of us, the kids coming to us, we are going to the school to deliver those coats. So please sign up for that as you can. And our next Soulmates will be in December. Great. And and we anticipate also possibly having Covered in Coats in December. So it's really nice. I think those of you who have done it before truly understand the satisfaction that you get as an adult to help these kids. So thanks again for your time and your efforts.
And I just want to say we heard a great story about Frank. He is like many of the children that come to these. I had one that just kind of hit home this week as well. It's a young man who, we were pretty busy, the bus got there early and some of the adults hadn't shown yet. So some of the kids just started searching on their own, and this young man picked out some shoes that he liked, shoes that he was sure would fit, and was looking for some socks, so I helped him get socks. And then I looked, and the shoes were a size 9, and this young man was not exactly tall enough to have a size 9, so I looked at the little sticker and it said 5.5 or something like that. And I said, well, why do you think you need a 9? He said, well, that's what I always wear. So I said, well, let's go get your foot measured again. We had it measured again, 5.5 to 6. So we walked over to the right shoes, and I looked down at his feet, and he was wearing a size 9 or a 10 sneaker that had to be 10 or 15 years old, obviously handed down several times. So I don't know that he's ever had a pair of shoes that were actually his size. I think he got the hand-me-downs from the older brother. So it's things like that that just make you go, wow, this is fun. So if you've never volunteered, I know you got a lot of things to do in your life, but this is really something that's fun to do. And I thank the Rotary that I can be part of it. It's not work, it's just exciting. So think about picking up some time.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thanks to all of you for making this happen. It really is an amazing experience for us, probably more so than for the kids. We have several Blue Badge presentations today, so if you're a Blue Badge recipient today, I hope you know who you are. If you don't, I will say your names. So please come forward. This is really a great opportunity to show you some of the new members that we have who have really stepped right into Rotary and gotten engaged and found out what this is all about. So come on up here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And Terry Hobbs is our Red Badge, Blue Badge Vice Chair, so she is going to do this presentation for us.
Hello. On behalf of the board and membership of the Downtown Topeka Rotary Club, it's a great pleasure to welcome you as the newest members. We look forward to the fellowship that we will share, as well as your participation in many club projects that make our community and country and world a better place in which to live. And that's why we go by the 4-way test. Also, a Rotary's main objective and ideal is service above self. And I know that you've done that while becoming Blue Badges. You jumped right in and done and interacted with people and helped out. So it's a great process that they all go through to be with all of you and to see and volunteer what our projects are. So I would like to present each of you with your membership packet, and Grace will do that. And the label pin, this year's special theme coin, and your Rotary t-shirt. We ask that you wear your Rotary pin with pride. As a Rotarian, symbol of your commitment to Rotary ideals. It identifies you as a Rotarian and signifies that you're welcome. I would like Grace to present all of the Blue Badges to everyone, and they've completed their activities, which is attended an orientation, greeted members, participated in Soulmates, made a contribution to the Topeka Foundation or Rotary Foundation, set up your profile on the club's website, gave the invocation, and introduced guests and introduced speakers are just part of the things they can choose from. They're proud to wear their Blue Badges, and one thing that Rotary, and especially Downtown Rotary, is good at is having fun. So, well, please welcome our new members. Here is Yana Ross, Jade, Carol Jordan, Mildred Evans. Oh, Jeremy has really been strong with the Highland Park kids. Robert, thank you so much for participating. Thank you. You're great members. We're proud of you.
Thanks to all of you for all the work that you've already done. Our speaker today will be introduced by Angel Zimmerman.
get to present to you Kendall Seal. So Kendall is an attorney. He is the Vice President of Research and Policy and General Counsel for the Women's Foundation. He is a UMKC law alum and has a Bachelor of Arts from Missouri. And one of the things that is so exciting about this is that the Women's Foundation, I got to get involved. They came to the Kansas Women Attorneys Association several years ago, and I said, I want to know about this group. They have commissioned with KU to do a study on the status of women in Kansas. That's a fantastic survey, and it goes county deep, so not only statewide. Last year, we got to work with the Women's Foundation to open up Topeka, Kansas for the Appointments Project. So we worked with Mayor Larry Wolgast on that. This is a project to get more women on civic boards and commissions, so something that is very, very needed. They also are opened up for the statewide process as well. So they work on Kansas appointments, and pretty soon we're going to open up some more places in Kansas. So they also have a girls leadership project in Kansas City. And some things that we've learned is that we know that women want to be asked, and so they've created this project. And the other thing that we tend to learn about women is, you know what, we kind of want to be 100 to 150% already trained before we jump into something. And so that's another thing that they can do is help provide that training. So when we do come on civic boards and commissions, that we are ready to go. I just want to share with you how significant this organization is and some of the events that they have put on. So the U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations came this year, Samantha Powers. Last year I got the great opportunity to get to see Dr. Madeleine Albright, Ann Compton, and Ariana Huffington with Huffington Post. So these are just some of the names that they bring to this project and to our area. So Kendall, please tell us what we're doing for the Women's Project.
Well, first of all, I would like to say thank you for the invitation to have me speak today, and a special thank you to Angel Zimmerman for advocating for gender equity here in Topeka and around Kansas. So the Women's Foundation is 25 years old. Women in Kansas, men in Kansas, men in Missouri coming together historically to drive dollars into organizations serving women and girls. About 4 years ago, we pivoted organizationally to invest more dollars in research. As Angel indicated, we partner with KU. We also have a partnership with K-State, in case there's any division in the room on that issue, and other institutions to increase the level of research that we have related to our community. So it's not just national data, but it's really giving feedback about what's happening here in the heartland. So that's a priority for the foundation. Our mission, let's see if this works, there it is, okay, is to promote equity and opportunity for women of all ages, and we are of the philosophy, you might be asking, why is a guy giving this talk? Well, it turns out that gender equity is for everyone, and guys, that means you too, right? And part of the work that we're doing, you're going to talk about today, with the Appointments Project is engaging the community. It's larger than a nicety or a politically correct type conversation for us. It's a conversation, it's a business imperative for good governance and for strong businesses to have institutions that reflect the communities that they serve. And so that is kind of our impulse for this work. Our method is to invest in research. That research informs our philanthropic strategy, where we drive dollars into Kansas or into Missouri. Those solutions focus on civic leadership, strengthening our institutions in both states. It also focuses on economic development and workplace policies. And we are always driving on results. My boss loves to say that, I love to say that, and I think we have some deliverables that we're definitely driving on and getting some success. So these are a number of the projects, research projects that we have invested in here. There's one that's not on there. It's called Project Diane. Project Diane, I'm going to talk about that one first. It looked at women serving in the special forces. And the first part of it was handled by the Department of Defense, and we looked at the second part of it to see how do women integrate into male-dominated spaces, whether that's the C-suite of a corporation, a corporate board, or whether that's in government. And so we had some very interesting findings on that study. I'd just like to, if you're interested, I can circulate the details of that. But essentially, one of the biggest deliverables there is a call out to men and women that sometimes it's men mentoring women, and sometimes it's women mentoring men in terms of full integration into these spaces. So it's a really nice, I think, opportunity for engagement. The second piece, the whole reason we have an appointments project is because of the study that KE did. And the leading takeaway from that study said that women, not all women, but some women I should say, like to be asked to serve. Again, it's an opportunity for you, maybe if you don't want to, consider yourself asked. First of all, you should consider yourself asked to serve on a public board or commission. But if it's not for you, or gentlemen, maybe there's a woman in your life or your circle of influence that you could ask to serve on a public board or commission. It's a small thing, but it's an important thing that can help encourage someone to step up and lead. Occupational licensing and women entrepreneurs is another area that we drive on. Reducing licensing barriers and increasing access to capital for women who mean business. So the civic engagement research, as I mentioned, this was the leading finding, and it's something that drives us. We have a unique partnership with the League of Kansas Municipalities that we have launched to provide training and support to political executives across Kansas, also to appointees to increase the number of women serving on boards and commissions. We're very excited about this partnership. In addition, we're going to be, you're actually the first to hear about this one, we'll be rolling out some training on sexual harassment. As many of you have heard, the Kansas Capitol, both inside and outside the building, have, I think, been challenged in some ways, and I think with these unfortunate circumstances come profound opportunities to do better and to own the culture and improve the culture. And so we will be working alongside policymakers and business leaders to do that. So our solution that we bring to bear is the Appointments Project. And the Appointments Project, we've had some results. We've had 82 appointments in several of these various locations. Topeka will be announcing on November 30th the launch of a project in Wichita, Kansas. There'll be additional advances through the League of Kansas Municipalities to improve our board and commission processes and make them more transparent and promote those opportunities. There's also a recent one that we had in Olathe, Kansas. These projects are partnerships. They're really pipelines with political executives to increase the options they have to appoint. Typically, people appoint their friends. They appoint the people they know. They don't always hear from the rest of the community. And so that's what the Appointments Project is all about. It's about promoting these opportunities because they're not just political, they're professional development opportunities. They build your personal network, not just here in Topeka, but across the state. And they give you an interesting platform, a unique platform, to advocate for the issues that you care about. So that, in summation, we're in about 11 different places, and it looks different in various communities. We try to not do a one-size-fits-all, but really tailor our project to the community that we're serving. So this little website, I won't be offended if you get out your cell phone right now. In fact, if you wanted to take a picture of me and tweet it, my boss would know that I'm here today. But if you go to this website, it takes less than a minute to fill out a form to share your contact information with us. And we can help connect you to leadership opportunities in the community. And we have a government affairs team that supports you through the confirmation process. We'll introduce you to your state senator if you don't know them. We'll introduce you to the governor's office or the mayor's office. We'll take you around and introduce you to the panel that may be voting on you, and we'll advocate for you. that's just some of the work that we do in this space. It's also been a wonderful opportunity for us to work with political executives and talk to them about what are some best practices for recruitment. And I think that's a challenge both the private and public sector have, is getting qualified individuals to step up to the plate and serve in their communities. So that's part of the work that we're doing. And here's our information if you want to connect with us on social media. But we do provide trainings and conversations out in the community, whether it's at your business. We have lunch and learns on a whole array of different issues. Our engagement in civic life on that particular platform not only is focused on increasing the women serving on public boards and commissions, but also supporting, as Angel mentioned, our girls leadership class. We like to get them out and introduce them to these leaders and give them the opportunity to advocate on issues that they care about. And that's a wonderful thing to see. There's not a one-size-fits-all way to engage. It's really a spectrum. And something else you should know about the Appointments Project, we don't have a filter in terms of political affiliation, or you must agree with this issue or that issue or be this party or whatever. We purely want to see more women engaged in the political process, and that is our mission. And so I welcome the opportunity to visit with any of you after this presentation and hopefully grow this network in the Topeka region and really all across Kansas. So thank you. Sure, I'll take questions.
Do you have any information on where Kansas ranks in terms of women on public boards?
That's a very good question, and the answer is that number is not as easily available as you might think. The same is true with judges. Actually, when you look at the gavel gap, the number of women serving on the bench, for example, it's a lot of work to actually get that point in time number. In fact, most of the numbers they look at have to do with who's elected to office in the General Assembly. And in Kansas, I think you're at about 28% in terms of women serving in the legislature. When you look at other issues, this is where the Women's Foundation, asking questions like you just asked, it really makes people think about how they're measuring movement in a certain space. So an example of that was we asked the question, well, how many women sheriffs are there in the state? In Missouri, this last time we did a status, 2. There were 0 before, there were 2 after the last election.
There's some in Kansas.
There are some in Kansas, and just it was a number that they hadn't thought to aggregate and just try to tell the story better about where things stand. The same is true with judges, the same is true with mayors. When you look at the number of women elected to become executives at the local level. So lots of opportunity, but if you don't ask the question, if you don't have the metric, you can't move the ball down the field. So that's kind of the work that's before us. Yes?
I think what you're doing is very exciting. The question I have is, do you have internal metrics that you're using in terms of recruiting women from all different economic levels, racial, cultural, religious groups?
Yeah, so we do specific community outreach to various constituencies that may not be reached as easily with certain messages for civic engagement. We also fund certain grantees that integrate civic engagement as part of the conversation and the work that they do, because sometimes we're not the best at connecting with people in certain communities, and there are other messengers who are better. And so sometimes it's us and sometimes it's someone else, but yes, we do that work. And those metrics for us, they're responsive in part to political executives. We try to respect that relationship, but we also try to challenge those executives to maybe think a little more broadly about some of the appointments that they're making to enhance the kind of policy outcomes that they're seeking to achieve. So it's a little both sides of that conversation. Other questions?
So, Kendall, what is the gender gap?
Oh, The gender gap, so the way we talk about the gender gap, it's when you have, generally speaking, in a population about 51% women, but yet more or less, I mean, if you're to take an average, a lot of the times women are only engaged in the civic arena in about a quarter. So they're about half of their overall political power in the political sphere. And we know that women in Kansas volunteer at a high level. I think they beat the national level. Working women in particular volunteer. Where do they volunteer? They volunteer with their faith community. They volunteer with a nonprofit, and they volunteer at schools. Engaging in the public sector is not a space, and for the reasons that maybe some of you have been reading about, when you talk about the culture of these spaces, there's a pronounced culture of sexual harassment and other barriers there that make it very challenging, and so that's increasingly moving forward will be part of the work that we undertake.
Other than your numbers in the appointments process, do you do any research on what you called up there, systems change or systems research?
Yeah, so we do provide feedback to the administrations that we work with about where there are opportunities for system enhancement with how they're communicating about opportunities. And I'll give you an example. Sometimes we get on a question, I've had 3 women in particular I can think of off the top of my head, have stopped through the process because of a question that was asked of them that may require disclosure or sign off by a spouse in that situation. Maybe there's domestic violence in their past, and how much of a disclosure is going on there. So revising some forms, asking the questions better, asking them more targeted. Transparency, a lot of women and men want to know how much time is required here. Is it a 4-hour meeting every week? Is it once every quarter? Can I call in? These are important conversations from a transparency standpoint, and so advertising those can go a long way in helping people get on board with it. So there's systems change in both directions.
Kendall, you mentioned the gavel gap, and I'll ask this question in the context of what was reported in the newspaper this afternoon. Mike, a great article that you guys have in the paper this week. The current administration on the federal bench has inherited a large block of judges to be appointed, and so far the trend, according to the statistics, I think in this article in this paper, have been all 91% of the appointments so far, and at least the names submitted have been white Anglo-Saxon males. What is the gavel gap? I've never heard that. Do you have a statistic?
Yeah, so both Kansas and Missouri have huge, I know there's this rivalry that goes on between both states, but actually both states are a lot more similar on a lot of data points than they probably are comfortable in a lot of different areas. It's a fact. I mean, on the gavel gap, this was a very challenging piece that a law professor out of Vanderbilt was looking at it, and it was hard to get the data back to government transparency. I mean, how many of you know all your judges in the county? And how many of you know the gender breakdown, right? There's a few here. Some of you may, some of you. But most people don't. Most people don't know their judges. They don't know their metric on that kind of thing, and we didn't have a point-in-time assessment nationwide. And why trial court judges? Whether that's at the federal level or at the state level, because they're the judges that most likely interface with the public. And so that's what that gavel gap number looks at. So yeah, both Kansas and Missouri, and it's not just women, it's women of color as well, are significantly underrepresented in that space.
I'll just add to that, and I think in Kansas is unique because we're considered to be a hybrid state where some of in Shawnee County we have a nominating commission and appointment by the governor, whereas in Wichita and Sedgwick County they are elected. And I will say that makes a difference. It seems like the merit-selected judges tend to have more women in their counties than elected districts.
Judge Riss, that's an interesting point. It's actually one that the researcher brought up and likes to talk about, and I'm not the expert on, and it's not my research, but I will say there's a bit of a mixed bag, I think, from her perspective, at least on the merit-based selection in campaigns. I think you could talk probably a greater length about campaigning and the costs of elections and running for office versus a merit-based selection. But it is an important conversation that I don't think has been given enough thought, especially at the trial court level. Not that one's gender or race or whatever may influence your decision, but it definitely informs the context in terms of which you understand the community at large.
So can you tell us the pay gap?
Pay gap, yeah, well, it depends on who you are and it depends on what you do. So you're looking at around 78, 79 cents to the dollar. You're behind the nation in the status of women in Missouri and the status of women in Kansas, both states. This is a data point. Both are behind the national average on that. Both states have huge opportunities when it comes to women-owned businesses. They have huge opportunities when it comes to women entrepreneurs. You can point to tax policy, you can point to any number of different things, support licensing barriers across, and you can cut it lots of different ways through a political lens, but in both states those numbers are fairly similar. And so why is that an issue and why are we talking about women? Because when women's increased participation in the economy strengthens economies, and you see advancements there. And so it matters too on race. You see women of color tend to earn, the gap is significantly larger than it would be for a Caucasian woman, the gender pay gap. So, and by industry.
You mentioned women-owned businesses and women entrepreneurs. We know in the late 90s and early 2000s, it was about twice as difficult for them to get funding, startup funds, or funding for their business. How has that changed, and what is the statistic now?
I don't know the exact statistic on that issue. I will tell you that on both sides, in both states, this issue of accessing capital keeps coming up, and I think, when you look at some of the implications of various tax policies, I think that does have some force in the conversation, the ability to make those, but some of them are process-oriented and institutions, and bringing more institutions into the conversation, and reducing maybe some of those bureaucratic hurdles they have. So that's kind of the space we're operating in right now, I can tell you, but the access to capital, what that structure looks like, is an opportunity.
Really important information. We really appreciate your comments. We would like to present to a local elementary school, rather than giving you something you don't need or want, a book. And today's book is called Ever After High, a semi-charming kind of life. And we'd like you to sign the booklet on this. And we would like to give you one of our theme coins from Rotary, and it's really pretty on one side, and it's got the very important four-way test on the other. So enjoy this, and pass it on to someone else at some point if you'd like to.
Absolutely, thank you all again. And little known fact, I was a Rotary scholarship recipient.
That's wonderful.
I see right here. You remember. So I have a couple of last announcements here. First of all, I want to tell you the results of our balloting. Our official ballot was completely accepted by all of you, and we're very grateful for those of you who have agreed to serve in our club. And for the additional 2 nominating committee members, the 2 people who got the most votes were Blanche Parks and Curtis Sneeden. So they will go to work in about a year. Let's see. I do want to announce, you'll see right back here, Rebecca Crotty is here today. As you know, she was injured a few weeks ago, and we're so glad you're here and able to come today, Rebecca. So let's give her a hand. Next week, we will have Thanksgiving with our families, hopefully, so we will have no meeting here. 2 weeks from today, KU Chancellor Gerard will be speaking to us, so that will also be a wonderful talk. And we will be in the Ramada, but in the Regency room. I want to tell you that Aesop said, "No act of kindness, no matter how small, is ever wasted." Isn't that true? So let's stand to say the four-way test plus one. Of the things we think, say, or do,
is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
and will it be fun?